At 11:30 last night, we had our victim in this case is an 18-year-old man. He has a pickup and ended up giving a ride to basically a friend of a friend. I'm not sure, the reports don't say, so I don't know if the victim and this person he gave a ride to know each other, but they were basically introduced through another person, if that makes sense. So they ended up in the area of 33rd and Duluth, and they went inside an apartment there. Once they went inside, there were three other people. So we had the guy that, our victim, the person he gave a ride to, and then three other people. And one of the persons pulled out a gun, ended up hitting him over the head with his gun, wanted his cash. Another guy had a gun, also hit the victim in the head, and took the victim's keys. Everybody left at that point in time. We had a man and a woman that took the keys. They left in the truck. Two other men, one of them was the one that he gave the ride to. They left, we believe, on foot. So the victim called. He was inside the officer's patrol car taking the report, and he happened to notice his stolen truck drive past. Another officer was right there and started trying to stop that truck. There was a pursuit that took place, and they continued with this pursuit because there was the weapons involved, and we really didn't know what the people were going to do. So they ended up kind of driving around that central part of Sioux Falls, and eventually the truck crashed near 27th and Norton. Ended up hitting a snowbank. I think it probably was trying to make a corner and wasn't able to make that corner. Initially, the officer that was chasing him had stopped behind the truck and walked up to the drive. Well, I'm not sure the terminology, maybe that's right, but he ended up going up to the driver's door and was trying to get the driver to come out. The driver was trying to get unstuck and was accelerating at a high rate of speed. The tires were spinning, and it caused the truck to basically go backwards. The officer had his hand on the door handle. That caused him to go back. He slipped on the ice, and he actually thought he was going to get run over for a second. The officer got away from there, got into a different position. The driver continued to kind of go back and forth. They used some other patrol cars essentially to box him in, and then they ended up giving up. We had a man that was driving. His name is Benjamin Wayne Swally, and there was a woman, the passenger is Janelle Ruth Nelson. There was a handgun and some meth that were found inside the vehicle, so both of them were arrested on quite a few different charges. We do know who the other two people are, but have not found them yet. I think that's about it. So I'll give you the details on their names, but Benjamin is Benjamin. Middle is Wayne, Wayne. Last is Swally, Swalley, and he's 34 from Sioux Falls. He had quite a few charges. We have the robbery, aggravated assault, grand theft, aggravated eluding, possession of controlled substance, possession of a firearm by a violent offender, committing a felony with a firearm, and then there was quite a few traffic violations that were in there as well. Janelle just had the possession of controlled substance, and she also had a warrant for possession of controlled substance, so she had those two charges. Yes. Janelle is Janelle, Ruth, Ruth, Nelson, Nelson, and she is also 34 from Sioux Falls.
I thought I might have heard that maybe, well, first, was the officer treated or injured?
He was not injured at all.
What about that? Were any cars, police cars?
Yeah, I don't know the extent of the damage. There was some minor damage caused to the police cars. I don't know how many, or, yeah, I guess I just don't have details on those.
And where did this start?
It started at 33rd and Duluth.
At an apartment.
Yep, well, yeah, they pulled up there, went into an apartment right I don't know the specific address on that one, I guess. But it was right at that area, and then when they left, then I'm not sure, I guess that was one of the things that wasn't in the report, is why they went driving back by that area. Seemed a little odd that you'd steal a vehicle and then go back. But
This was premeditated?
We don't know yet. I mean, there's still an ongoing investigation with this. There's a drug component with this, so there's still, I guess, questions that we don't have answers to. So hopefully we'll be able to figure those out. Certainly we've seen instances like this in the past where people have been set up. You know, they know each other. There may be somebody dealing drugs. There may be somebody that's selling drugs. There might be somebody that just, they know a person has money and, you know, sets them up. So there's a lot of different scenarios, you know, that could have happened. We just don't know for sure what exactly happened. So we don't, I mean, long rambling answer, but we don't know if they purposely set up this person or if it was just kind of a random type of act.
And just to be clear, the two people that were in the vehicle, were either of those the friend of a friend?
No. So we had, it was that person that was given the ride would have been basically the fourth person in that apartment. So those other three, there was two guys. One of them was the driver, one of them was the woman, and then another person were in that apartment when the victim and then the other suspect showed up. And so, and it doesn't say why he gave the guy a ride, but it doesn't say why he went into that apartment. So that's one of the things we're trying to figure out as well.
It's not his resident, I'm sorry.
No, it was not his home.
And police are still searching for the other two?
Yeah, we know who the other two are. We've got names, but we haven't found them yet.
What about the victim? He was hit by the gun. Was he injured?
An ambulance came out and checked him out. He did not need any medical treatment.
And were the two in the truck, were they injured in the crash?
No. No injuries from that.
And this started at 3 a.m.?
No, this was about 11:30 p.m. And I don't have the times on when the crash happened and when they were arrested.
Just before midnight.
Just before midnight. Thanks, Tom.
Was there a EBT or anything?
Let
Was they
me.
tested for use in that?
Let's try it this way. I didn't see, there's still quite a few reports I wasn't able to review with this, but the ones that I saw, I didn't see a PBT, but let me look at one other thing to see sometimes. There's just a lot of different places in the computer they can put it, so. I'm not seeing a PBT.
We had a couple readers reach out and say they heard what they thought might have been gunshots in that same area. Do you know if any shots were fired during the incident or anything like that?
It wasn't a gunshot. The officers were using basically a less lethal device to try to break the windows on the vehicle. So that's probably the noise they heard.
Can you kind of explain that a little more? What were they using?
No.
Okay.
It's, I don't have answers to that. That's why I can't. It's, I'd have to do some checking, but my understanding is it's like an impact weapon. And so there's a lot of different uses for that, and somebody had access to one, and they were trying to use it to break out the window because they weren't stopping, and they thought that they'd be able to, I don't know, I suppose at least communicate with them. But I guess I don't know that much about it. I don't think it's like it uses like gunpowder. I think it's a projectile. I know that, but I don't know if it's like compressed air that it uses or something. But I think it makes a pretty loud noise. But I'll have to do some more checking on that.
Okay, so the officer who thought they might be run over during this incident wasn't the same one using that?
No,
that
it was a different one,
Okay.
right? And it was after, I think there were several officers that were there at that point in time.
Okay.
And, you know, I mean, one of the other things that heightens it is obviously the weapon had been used. You know, they had the pursuit, and they obviously weren't stopping. And so there was, I'll just say that there was probably an abundance of caution, and so they were pulling out different tools that they have to try to bring that to a successful closure.
One of the charges against, I forget his name, but the driver was commit a crime, violent offender, so he has some previous, is that really connected to some previous charges?
It would be, yeah, and I'm not able to get into the history about that, but yeah, there's, one of them was, I don't see it on there now, that was,
Commission of a firearm or the violent offender or something?
yeah, that was, let me just double check, because that was in the report, but I just want to make sure that they had that charge. Sometimes they don't always come across. There we go. Possession of a firearm by a former violent offender. That's the one you're talking about, right?
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with it, but I figured out what it is.
Usually we see that, and I don't know if that's the case in this instance, but usually we see that from previous drug convictions. But so that's one of the things that when somebody's arrested, they'll have basically run a criminal history to find out if there's anything, and then if there is a violent conviction, a violent crime conviction, then that charge would be appropriate.
And so I'm clear, the handgun was not the victim's that was stolen, or was it?
No, I don't know where the guns came from. The victim did not have any guns with him. At least there wasn't any mentioned in the report about that.
And the victim's from Sioux Falls?
Yes.
One more, just something about pursuit, and you sort of showed why they didn't, and I'm all for it myself. What I heard on the scanner, which isn't always accurate, was, speed to 20 miles per hour, so on, and then it jumped to 65 miles per hour, no traffic. Oh, he's hit the Snowbank, out, so on. But, I mean, 65 miles per hour on Norton Avenue is a little fast. I don't know, any thoughts on pursuits?
Well, we changed our pursuit policy a few years ago, and really the policy change was to reflect what officers and sergeants on the street were, the way they were handling it. But unless there's some, I guess, extraordinary circumstances, if there's some immediate danger to the public, we really don't pursue cars because most of the time people, if they're not going to stop, they're not going to stop, and so there's no point in running all around town chasing them. It just really, there's a greater chance that somebody else could get hurt by that. And so, like I said, that this is, officers have been doing this for years, that they would try to stop a car. If they wouldn't stop, then especially if there was a lot of traffic or there was high speeds, the officers would stop that pursuit on their own. So our policy change really kind of caught up and reflected what they were doing, and really it just comes down to using good judgment. There have been a few cases since that policy changed, and it really falls in line with our policy that if there's a danger to somebody, if there's a danger to the public, and the probably easiest answer is if there's somebody with a gun that you don't know what they're going to do with that gun, then there's situations when the pursuit policy, I guess, when the officers would pursue those cars. So in this one, we had supervisors that were monitoring that. They knew that this was a dangerous situation, that the victim had been robbed at gunpoint and hit with a gun, a couple of different guns. So that was one of the reasons that they wanted to stop this car, because they really didn't know what those the suspects were going to do or what they were planning on doing. So the speeds, yeah, you're right, that is a high speed. I'd say if it were just like a normal traffic stop and somebody took off at that high rate of speed, there wouldn't be any reason to chase them. They're just going to run more stop signs, run more red lights, and there's a greater chance that somebody could get hurt or injured from that. In this case, the officers and supervisors thought it was appropriate to continue chasing.
And by my calculation, it only went 9 blocks. If it would have gone long, if it would have gone longer, they might have called it off.
Right, there's
on 26th Street.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that is really a constant evaluation is whether there's value in pursuing them. You had somebody that committed a robbery. That's probably the best way to say it, is you don't know what else they were going to do or were planning on doing. Anything else with that?